Well, this truly is it. The final part of Sonic Adventure 2 and Think Fast! Hard mode!
Oh. I thought we were going to say this truly is the true Sonic Adventure 2 TM.
Yes.
Going to be Sonic Adventure 2 Battle TM.
This is truly the part where I understand what it is to become a YouTuber who says they're not going to do something but ends up doing it later in their career. I'm just doing it speedrun style.
Just asking, what does hard mode entails?
Okay, like I mentioned, hard mode essentially ramps up the difficulty of each level. For good reason, it is the final mission of each set of 5, essentially. Now, how each level increases the difficulty can vary on gameplay styles, but as you can see for Sonic's, they're throwing in more enemies and obstacles. The thing is, you want to get an A rank, you still gotta move pretty quickly. Well, in regards to the speed stages and the treasure hunting stages.
For this one, you don't seem to have the countdown at least.
Yep.
No.
Yeah, you get no countdowns in hard mode. However, don't worry, the difficulty more than makes up for that.
Oh, I can imagine.
There's also some minor changes to the level design. It's not like to the extent of the super hard DLC of Sonic 06.
Like what? Since I had to weave in and out of those spike balls there.
To give you an example, I actually think it's harder to A rank the 4th mission of City Escape than the hard mode, because getting the A rank while still finishing in time for that 4th mission can be quite challenging. I will argue even more challenging than just getting an A rank on hard mode. At least in hard mode you have more time to do things.
I will say this though, hard mode on some stages is definitely the hardest thing to do of those 5 missions, which is saying a lot given, the extremities with getting 100 rings, which admittedly is not the worst. Getting 100 rings A-rank style, that more or less just amounts to getting 100 rings quick enough, essentially. In fact,
I will argue.
Yeah, getting stuff done quick enough is more or less how you A-rank missions 2 and 4. Also mission 3 as well. But,
there are a lot more bottomless pits in this version, it seems.
Yes. Again.
What's that?
Insert them joke here.
Cut that was about to. It seems suddenly took over.
They designed the hard mode especially for everyone.
You see, guys, in that day, a young developer who would soon be the lead at DIMS played hard mode of Sonic Adventure 2 and was struck with an epiphany. And
That's
what if I did that, but worse?
What was the epiphany? I want to make a shitty Crash Bandicoot party game someday.
By the way, as you'll notice, the island starts to sink a lot quicker, so you gotta boost your way through and hopefully.
Yes. There's there's no timer, but there's still a timer.
Well, okay, let me put it like this. When it comes to getting A ranks, consider it a mental timer. Cool. Especially on Security Hall's hard mode. But you know what? Maybe we should just lie back and relax and go from Green Forest to Green Hill.
With mech tails.
Well, we did a mech character without their mech, so let's do a mech character with their mech. So let's go back in time and see, hey, maybe Tails could have handled Green Hill Zone just fine with a mech and guns. And yes, if you're listening closely, you'll notice that certain special effects, which clearly are meant for only a speed character, transition here, since I assume they really only expected speed characters would show up.
Yeah. Basically, remember, when you're playing in Green Hill, it plays the classic Sonic sound effects, the jump effects and stuff like that. However, the game does not expect you to bring in a mech character in here, so the sound effects kinda go crazy.
Get confused.
Yeah.
Quite.
Again, like I said, this is one of the best Sonic mods for me. The freedom to put all characters in all stages as you please, because again, you can get so much fun out of this.
Now, if you want a version where every character can get through without having to, break the game essentially, that's Sonic 2 That's Sonic Adventure 2 Randomizer, I believe.
Oh yeah, that.
Which we might tackle someday because, holy cow, the story potential from that.
Oh yeah, like in Johnny's version where the story somehow morphed into who gets to be elected the president, Shadow or Knuckles.
Gotta love how when you're flying through the stage like this, you can take a look at all that beautiful 2D waterfall glory.
I love how they pretty much
I think the background
took
is
that
just from the
background.
Mega Drive game.
Yeah, I was about to say, they pretty much did that.
I did it!
Indeed you did, Tails.
Where am I?
What? You don't remember Green Hill? Oh wait, that's right, you weren't originally in Green Hill.
Exactly.
You'll get used to it, Tails, don't worry.
At least it's not Sand Hill. Alright, so, let me go into what I will be doing for this part. I will be choosing my favorite stages for each character and doing hard mode with them, essentially. Just to show that off, essentially. Since, as much as I do want to show off the entire game and all of its missions, I think we've been here long enough.
I can only imagine how dreadful Mad Space hard mode is.
Actually, I will explain later why I actually prefer hard mode
Okay.
over that.
I will say this, when it comes to the treasure hunting stages, there are some cases where hard mode is not the worst thing for them. Other cases where hard mode can be the worst, but there is a good reason for what Pedro's getting at. For now, though, let's tackle Shadow's hard mode.
Yeah, what's
stage
better than
tonight.
normal Shadow? Hard Shadow.
Yes. I'm hard as I am cool.
I'm actually going.
Wait, hold on. Let's do this.
It's like that, oh.
Yes!
It's like that top sketch of that commercial that had Jason Griffin in it, where the woman asks, "Do the Shadow voice."
I'm curious, Joe. Are you gonna get Shadow Generations physically or digitally?
Me, probably both. Physically on Switch, so that I can get the journal. Although I hear the journal will also be available digitally. That said,
No,
you know.
the journal is only for the physical edition. That's the thing.
No, I've
It's like
heard.
a collector's item, from what I understand.
I've heard that the notes are going to be
I mean,
in the game
it's
as
the
well.
internet. A
but
PDF is gonna show up in less than a week, so...
that's
Yeah, it's gonna be available digitally one way or another.
my point is, I'm probably gonna double dip. You know, switch for physical and handheld, since you know I like my stuff for physical. But of course, I'm also gonna get the Steam version for hope of mods and just the fact that that is probably gonna be the best way to play the game.
I probably will also. I really want to get that notebook, but I also might just have to get it digitally first because it's the only way to get the PS4 version.
Oh, look. I'm not bothering with the PS4 version because, mark my words, those extended or deleted scenes will be on YouTube faster than you can blink.
Oh no, I get that, Jova. It's more so because I want the trophies for both versions.
Going for the uber completionist method.
Even before they announced the pre-order stuff, I was already planning on getting it on PlayStation for my console version anyway, and then on Steam later.
To get the platinum. Okay.
I'll get it for Switch.
So,
Has Sega already mentioned if they're delisting the original generations on Steam?
No, they have not mentioned it.
Because
Unfortunately not.
before,
I'm quite surprised they haven't.
yeah, before it was announced, Deji was concerned, and I did give him a copy of that.
I
thing,
will.
I mean,
Wait,
it's a valid concern considering how some companies are.
I'm
And
surprised
remember,
Sega
Sega did
didn't
that
know.
with Sonic Origins. They delisted all of the classic Sonic games from all storefronts when Origins released.
I am surprised Stage didn't mention that. Okay, I'm guessing if they do not delist the original generations, that's because even Sega are aware of the massive modding community for that game, to the point where, let's be honest, the mod levels were essentially the DLC that game was sorely missing out on in the first place. Speaking of Shadow Sonic generations, I am extra glad that in the starter part, I showed off what Shadow was originally going to look like, so now you guys could get why Terios being in Sonic X Shadow generations is such a big deal.
Yeah, if I didn't know that, if I didn't know what it was, I would have asked if it was actually a Ken Pander's character.
Thankfully not.
We'd know if it was a Ken Pender's character because he would have blown up his Twitter by now.
Of course.
Victory.
Is the
Alright,
man
who's
done
next?
with trying to sue Paramount? Oh,
I mean, you sure?
I don't know. It's been a while
Jova-
since I've checked in on
Jova,
that.
Yeah,
Jova, it's Ken Penders. He's never done with anything.
He sure has a lot of free time, so not making his comic book.
Yeah, Ken, how's the Laura Sue Chronicles coming along?
I'm sure it's going as well as his plans to sue Paramount for infringing on the usage of Knuckles' father. No, that's actually a thing.
I really have to wonder, if he's not making any comics right now, how is he even making rent at this point?
I've heard it may...
Believe it
very
or not,
good
people
question.
pay him for commissions.
Okay.
Really?
I doubt he's living off of commissions, though, since commissions can
Oh,
only
yeah,
buy
no.
so much. I've heard it may have something to do with whatever his wife's job is. Anyway, yes, surprise,
Yeah.
surprise. Yes. He has kids and everything, Shuri. He based... the
Wow, there really is someone for everyone. Jesus Christ.
Sure.
I feel sorry for those kids.
Shuri, he based the kids in Sonic 100 off of his kids.
Huh.
Anyway, yes.
Anyway,
surprise-
continue.
How hard is Eternal Engine?
Okay, yeah, surprise, surprise, Eternal Engine is my favorite Tails level,
Oh,
essentially.
Tails? Yeah, there you go.
Don't worry, I'm okay. But
We're
yeah,
almost retracting the
Tails.
style of the airlock.
Tails, you nearly suffocated.
it's alright, I'm fine. But yeah, no. When it comes to Eternal Engine, there are more of those things that can suck you out. And remember, you need a higher point bonus, which means you're probably gonna have to shoot more of them, essentially. Which means, yeah, get good at running and dashing while shooting. And, stow your fears away. And, okay, yeah.
Sorry, Derek.
And yes, here's one of the major difficult increases of mech level stages. You only get one health pack throughout the entire thing.
So you have to make sure to not get hit that much.
Yep.
You know one other thing, by the way, that is baffling, going back to that Shadow Generation thing? There's no digital Switch version, at least so far.
Really?
So weird.
Maybe
If you go to the eShop, there's no digital pre-order for that. You can only so far. I'm guessing maybe we'll change at some point.
Or I wonder if it's a case where, again, this fabled new console that Nintendo is making is supposedly more in the work and all the third-party companies know about it and they're preparing accordingly to that.
Well, in that case, if there's already a physical version of for the current Switch, why not a digital version for the current Switch as well? That wouldn't be
Again, I get the idea, maybe they want to have that just for that new version, I don't know. Just
Yeah.
spitballing.
That
I think
or
it's weird.
it is weird. Like, I love Nintendo, but they can be weird and,
Well,
Again,
to be fair,
let's not
we even know if Nintendo had something to do with that. So
Yeah, again, it will just be spitballing. But again, let's not pretend, Nintendo is not capable of resetting once again the digital store with a new console. Because they did it, passing from the Wii U to the Switch.
yeah.
Speaking of Sonic...
Sorry.
Speaking of Sonic X Shadow Generations, Terios' model resurfacing has, given people new ideas on how to justify the whole people mistaking Sonic for Shadow, essentially. For starters, yeah, going off of Shadow's original look as Terios, which by name also means literally reflection, how much you want to bet that the script was originally having that look for Shadow in mind? What makes you them
It's
stop
very
doing
possible.
this?
It's very possible.
That being said, let's try and be fair to the general public. We, the fans, know Sonic up close and personal, but Sonic being a celebrity doesn't mean that, a lot of people recognize or have even seen him in person, since he's kind of a drifter who drifts from place to place. So to be fair, for as a lot of people could have known, Shadow could have been Sonic because, let's be honest, how many supersonic speed hedgehogs are there in reality?
Plus, yeah, I don't think that name really makes if it means reflections. I don't think that Terrier's name really makes any sense because Shadow's meant to be a reflection of Sonic. The Shadow was created 50 years ago, and Sonic wasn't around 50 years ago. So
but remember, but Dwibs, remember, there's another Fury which has also come back up to light thanks to Sonic X Shadow Generations, the Mirror Fury, as I mentioned. Where, remember, okay, so we've seen some of the scans from the journal from that preview shot of it, and apparently they do hint at the idea that Gerald did indeed do research on Angel Island. Which means that he would have been to the ruins, essentially, and seen the murals of both Perfect Chaos and Supersonic. And since... yes.
Sorry.
Gotta watch out for that extra gravity in hard mode. Jesus Christ.
Gotta be careful, it'll fall off you.
Oh yeah, by the way, bad news. Omo Chow doesn't show up in hard mode because the kid gloves are off.
How will I cope?
This has ruined the entire run, and we have to start again.
Why is there not a vote for that?
You should have said that to me before I started recording.
Like, with all the mods that are existent, why is there not a vote to include Omo Chow in our mod?
There probably is, but that was not included on this run, if there is one out there.
How many enemies are there out there?
Let me check.
I love how they give you the one health pack right before the section just because they know the enemies are going to blitz you.
Tails should be throwing up after that, my god.
Whoa, my head spinning!
What a wild ride. Anyway.
But again, not ultimately confirmed yet, but it's looking very much like Sega are going to make the Mirror Fury canon. Which would mean, Glibs, that Shadow is Sonic Shadow in the sense that Shadow was based off of Sonic, or rather a mural of him.
So Gerald said, "This is my OC, you do not steal."
Remember, originally he made BioLizard, which was based off of Perfect Chaos, but BioLizard did not work out as well, given that it killed a lot of people and went crazy, so... He went back to the drawing board and decided, okay, this time I'm doing the hedgehog.
Alright,
honestly, the whole my head spinning thing, it sucks no matter what game it's in.
Yes, I got an A rank because the point bonus was just enough.
Yeah. In the meantime, Teo, the answer you're looking for is yes, there is a Sonic Adventure 2 Omo Chow Edition mod.
Oh, wait. What is that? Okay.
No, what I asked was one that included Omo Chow where it's normally not present, like hard mode.
Oh, that. Well, I'm assuming it probably does it for hard mode too, this mod, I mean.
Yeah, I'm curious. What exactly does Sonic Adventure 2 Omo Chow Edition do? Does it do what Sonic 1 and 2 Omo Chow Edition do?
Yeah, the maker even says that he was inspired by Sonic 1 Omo Chow Edition to make this.
So he made a version. He made a version that has
several options which can be configured to ensure maximum, as in torture, fun. You can make Omo Chow follow you around and talk continuously. You can make Omo Chow activate immediately when it appears. You can make Omo Chow talk over each other. You can make Omo Chow replace all the rings in the stage.
Wait,
you can make Omo Chow talk with random dialogue from the whole game.
I was wondering.
Might try that if I ever end up hating myself for some reason.
I was wondering, did that mean that it makes it so that Omo Chow will talk every time you collect a ring? Because that would make getting A ranks
No. Oh, there's the thing, Joe. You can replace every ring in the stage with an Omo Chow, meaning the rings are Omo Chows, meaning there's Omo Chows everywhere.
Oh no.
He's living in your walls.
Plus you die in one hit.
Yeah, sure.
Like, your children are drowning, patting their head and saying everything will be okay isn't going to help them not drown.
Well, sure, I'm sure Tails knows what's best, right?
He can also drown here, so you know.
Remember,
in the Dreamcast version.
We established this earlier in the playthrough, Shiroy. The parental method we're using here is how to teach your kid to swim. Just throw the kid into the pool. Figure it out, dipshit.
Well, if it works, it
Does
works.
the Sonic World have CPS?
You know, the sad part is that it actually works here, right? Like, the longer a Chao is in the pool, the more his swimming skill increases. So technically, that method.
I thought you were gonna say that about an actual child.
As for CPS, Yuri, if you're referring to Chao Protective Services, why
Yes,
that
Child
is,
Protective Services.
why that is Uncle Chaos himself coming out and destroying the world, if Adventure 1 is anything to go by.
Yep.
Right.
And we wouldn't.
So
know
it doesn't
that,
get any
would
more
we?
protective than that, I guess.
Although, like
Especially-
Tio mentioned, essentially, every Chao technically, I guess, does have the potential to become Chaos if they get hit with whatever mutant strain did him. But as for why Tail says it'll be alright, well, it reminds him of a flashback, if you will.
What the hell is this?
This is the Dreamcast version. I'm using some
Oh,
footage from
no.
another user by the name of Latios Eon, essentially. And yes, in the Dreamcast version, originally they used the cave music for the Chao lobby.
Wait, Oma Chow is with you too?
Yes, and in the Dreamcast version. So this is what
The pools really did look different in the Dreamcast version.
they changed it for a reason, though, and well, you may be able to see why soon. Observe.
It wasn't as big, yeah.
It'll be fine.
See, there you go.
Tails,
Oh, it is.
no!
There's also.
It is a lot deeper.
That being said, Teo, you can mod the original Dreamcast Gardens back into the game if you want.
Ah, that's neat.
So you can have Tails drown to your heart's content.
Why does the child have to drown with you?
Oh, no,
you know-
watch
you know-
this, Roy, actually, in that regard. In regards to the child supposedly drowning, the child just backstrokes, just fine.
Like, bye, bitch.
And yes, also, you gotta love how creepy the death animations for drowning were in the adventure games. Like, almost nothing said, just the characters choking and then lifelessly bobbing up.
Doesn't Sonic actually, like, goggle in one version?
In Adventure 1, yes.
Remember, Jova,
Okay.
it all started with Mario 64 for some reason.
Actually, don't you remember, like, in Rise of Lyric, Knuckles gargles way more than Sonic. Jesus Christ. When we redo Rise of Lyric, I'll show that off again because it's hilarious.
But yeah, there
But,
you go, guys. Ironically, in the place that's supposed to symbolize heaven, Tails can die in a gruesome
basically.
fashion.
That's what we should do at some in the future, Joe. In the future, in the future month of Sonic thingy, I'm probably gonna do the Elmo Chow edition of this thing, just so to see how long we can take it before we want to kill ourselves.
Do the whole story mode. I dare you.
All
right.
Is that it there?
Yes.
Okay, motherfucker.
Oh god, no.
All right.
It wasn't a request, it was a dare.
All right.
No.
So, welcome to the treasure hunting hard mode stuff. And yes. Okay. Right. Go on.
Basically, Teo, in the treasure hunting stages, hard modes, the ammos are in fixed locations. Which means if you know ahead of time where they are, it becomes easier to get an A rank, basically.
That being said, here is the trade-off. They often are put in some of the most difficult locations to get
That's
something.
right,
Like, look at this. You have to be practically touching the fire to get that emerald. And that's not even getting how to some of them can be incredibly tricky and crafty to get. Like, you'll notice how the first one was at an incredibly tough and difficult jump. Oh yes, and tougher enemies. As you may notice, the Boom Booms are now at Pumpkin Hill. What are those? Much bigger ghosts who will freak you out if you hit them, because their stitched mouths... Oh, hello.
Hi,
Big.
big. Bye, big.
Because their stitched mouths will come unopened and pretty much jump scare you with a creepy toothy grin and try to hit you bad. So, how to get the final Emerald Shard? Oh yeah, and by the way, the time limits for getting A-ranks are super strict with hard mode, so you better be moving.
The hell is it? On
What?
top of the thing?
You're close.
Oh, in the enemy?
Nope.
No.
So you have to get to the top here. Then you have to look around.
How are you doing that, Knuckles?
And then,
He's,
what's this? Put on the glasses, that generates a spring pad, and bam. Yes!
Oh, Okay, that's cryptic as shit.
Okay, believe it or not, the hints do tell you, or at least hint well enough to it. But yes.
Remember, Teo, you can go to TV screens and get hints for that, so it's not.
Right.
But you could lose the A rank.
Yeah, I was about to say they lower the score or something.
They do, they do this, but here's what you do. You figure out where they are, then repeat the stage, and now that you know in advance where they are, easy A rank.
And yes, here's my big moment.
No hard match space, Jova. How disappointing.
You know, I was considering it, but no, hard mode is one of those few cases where I'm gonna say the hard mode is still the worst thing of that thing because...
Again, I spent 40 fucking minutes on that thing.
I guess
I can't believe it. They're not gonna come back.
Don't worry, Teo, you're not alone. Teo. It's Teo. When it comes to Mad Space, Teo, Mad Space is the Sonic equivalent of Final Fantasy X 200%. Nobody actually likes it. It's just a bunch of people suffering together, the ones who did it.
Like,
so,
Mad Space is widely agreed to be the worst treasure hunting stages. It even gave me a new appreciation for Security Hall, which, yes, is now my favorite Rouge level. Probably
to be
because...
fair, I get, in hard mode you don't get the countdown, so there's that.
That said, if you're going for the A rank, consider the countdown to be much stricter than the original levels. So yeah, you also have to use Rouge's treasure scope to activate the spring pad, which gets you the switch. Let's get that Chaos Emerald. Also, if you'll pay close attention, the dollars all have Sonic space on them.
So they're worthless.
Should have been Robotnik space.
No. You see, that's just the currency of the world, Wibbs.
I mean, that's kind of something that a virtual Sonic the Hedgehog Robotnik will do.
So Sonic is Benjamin Franklin?
But yeah, okay.
Ben Frank is on the $100.
Okay, how many, what kind of bills are those? How many dollars?
100.
Probably 500.
Oh, is it 100? Okay.
The Benjamin Franklins are 100, yeah. Also,
No, I get that. No, I get that. The ones flying here in this level are how many dollars are those bills?
Couldn't see the full currency amount on those.
How is that? Perfect.
And yes, I got the A rank. I was thinking about doing Mad Space, but... Okay. Mad Space can be incredibly tough to work with the physics to get those emerald shards specifically, essentially. Also, I decided to pretty much keep it to the theme of I'll do my favorite levels for each character. Speaking of which, Cosmic Wall. Okay, Cosmic Wall is great. Still is here. However, it goes from being one of the easiest levels to A rank to becoming one of the hardest levels to A rank in hard mode.
Extreme.
Yep.
And as for why, well, first and foremost, there are a ton more artificial chaos in this level.
Lovely.
Everyone's favorite.
And here's the tricky thing, okay? You think, okay, you just have to build up chain bonuses like last time. Yes, but one thing to keep in mind with chaining bonuses when in the mech stage is essentially, if you get hit, even while you're shooting, you lose out on the bonus, essentially. And since the artificial chaos have attacks that can stretch for days, essentially, you can imagine where the issue comes, essentially.
One particularly important hint when trying to get an A rank in the mech shooting stage is that the chains only go up to 11. When you get to 11, that's when the extreme,
I think it's
perfect
12 that they go to. I think 11 is for extreme and 12 is for perfect.
Well, regardless, only get up to that number. And any chain above that number is just a waste of precious points you'll get. Like, never go above that number and just save whatever enemies are left for a new chain, because that way you'll get more.
I mean, okay, technically you will still get points after 12. The thing is, though, you won't get a higher bonus than perfect.
Yeah,
so
that's
leave
the
them
point.
around.
Like, to get fine, let me rephrase that. To get more bonuses.
And yes, in addition to it being hard mode, Eggman's is one of the few that actually does change the point value you need. It goes all the way up to the highest point requirements you will need for an A rank in this game. 100,000. Sorry, 100,000.
Ah yes, my soup. Ah yes, my egg space survival pills are working brilliantly.
Is there Sonic Adventure 1 motion?
How about Sonic 06 Overshower Edition?
It will be almost how constantly clipping through the floor and his dialogue is a garbled mess.
Well, think about this, Goods. Sonic 06, but full of Omo Chao. Are you sure you are prepared to deal with it?
I'm curious, would that be an improvement?
No.
Omo saying, I came repeatedly.
And then,
Oh no!
and then Omo
That's the
Chao.
thing, though. During the
No.
40,
Sure, you're thinking too small. Sonic 06 Elise Edition, where again it's full of Elises, and they always say, no, sorry, a lot of Amy, and it's always Amy saying, Sonic, you came! Sonic, you came! Sonic, you came! Over and over.
although that's the
God.
thing, though.
I'm sure there's someone very happy about that.
Although that's the thing, though. During the 4Kids era, I think Omo Chao only spoke once, and that was in Riders.
Who was Omo Chao voiced by during that era?
Yeah, for all of like the one game. Let me see.
I forgot.
got
Yeah,
more.
like Liz just said, Omo Chao wasn't actually around that much during the
True again, but I'm curious considering, you know, it was that in between Lani Minella and Laura Bailey.
It probably is Ortiz.
Well, actually, there were two. Lisa Jacqueline in Sonic Riders and Rebecca Honig in Sonic and the Secret Rings.
Okay, then.
Oh yeah, in addition to hard mode on this stage, you also have to be more precise with the enemies you hit, since you cannot let those precious points slip past, since, again, highest A rank requirements, essentially. Which means you need to hit them, and hit them good so that you don't get hit, thus ruining a chain bonus. It's hard, but it's honest work. And yes, attack on sight the artificial chaos, because they do not let up. And you know, speaking of Sonic X Shadow Generations, they're back again in that one, round 3.
Okay, so bad news. There's no Sonic 06 or Sonic Adventure 1 Omo Chao Edition.
Oh.
But there is Sonic Frontiers Omo Chao Edition.
Huh.
What, does it replace the Titans with Omo Chao?
Oh god.
Yes, Super Sonic fighting a giant Omo Chao. Make it happen, modders. Make it happen.
Okay, I know Omo Chao. Has Erica Lindbeck had much to do as Omo Chao lately?
Not really, no. The tutorials in Sonic Frontiers are handled more like modern game tutorials where you just see text and there's no actual tutorial character.
Right.
You know, I'll admit, I never hated Omo Chao. I get why people don't like him, but I guess I never particularly hated Omo
It's
Chao.
the same energy of Navi from Ocarina of Time, Jova. It's not so much, you know, pure secret hatred, but more like people joking about the repetitiveness.
Yeah.
I wish Sonic games still had a character that read the tutorials out loud.
Tails?
True. Tails could do that in colors.
Yeah.
Well, hold on. Let's see what the Omo Chao Edition for Frontiers does then. Okay, so you can finally gain the Hero controlling ring. Every time Sonic... Oh, never mind. Every time Sonic collects a ring, he instantly looks around and waits for increasingly longer periods of time. This mod increases the original run experience in Sonic 1. This mod only affects the open zone. It only affects the open zone, not the cyberspace.
Oh yeah, and they added in more spike balls to restrict where you can go.
Does the ominous voice get replaced by Omo Chao too?
That would be funny. But I mean, that's actually one of those rare cases where I would be okay with the modders busting out some AI and create, an AI version of Omo Chao's voice to replace it with. That would be fine. It's just a mod. It's not really harming anybody.
Curious, what's your favorite Omo Chao voice?
Laura Bailey, obviously.
We even need to ask the Jova.
So tell me, Pedro, would you be willing to do a whole Sonic game with nothing but Omo Chao speaking if it were Laura Bailey?
Sure, why not?
You know
See,
what?
the thing is, Jova. The thing is, Jova. To provide some context, my wife is very jealous and possessive, but she doesn't mind when I simp for Laura Bailey because her logic is like you're getting Annie. So,
Damn.
Wow, that's Ooh, there's Cope and then there's just Chiron Spike. Damn.
No, it's okay. It's okay. I like it when she's like that.
You like her when she's honest.
Sure. Okay.
Wonderful.
I mean, if you're both into it, then sure. I'm not going to be against it.
My two big turn-ons from Vanessa are when she's being super jealous and possessive, and when she's handling hardware. Like for example, let's say the DVD player break or something. She's good with tools and all. She will open the button and she looks so hot while she does it.
So you like it when she's jealous and possessive. So yandere factor, got it.
Yes.
Oh god, I can't imagine what the innuendos are like. Let me put my disc in your DVD player or something.
Guys,
Anyway,
we're having the wrong Sonic. Sorry, we're having the wrong Sega game here. This is not catering yet.
Right, that is a Sega game now. Yeah,
What you just said reminds me of how lesbians are with carpenters.
and you know, just from
I'm not gonna ask her.
Actually, you're going to explain that to me after this is done recording. moving on.
You know, knowing the fact that now, in addition to Knights, now even technically the Persona universe, which does include Catherine, has been acknowledged by Sonic, really does make you think. Especially with Paramount's recent announcement.
Well, it's not just that, Jova. Sonic appeared as a guest in the Shin Megami Tensei gacha. Sonic is officially treated as a demon.
Really? Oh, by the way, hi, Big.
Bye, Big.
So many jokes you could make of that.
For all intents and purposes, Jova, when it comes to, well, okay, it requires a bigger context because Persona alone doesn't really convey that much because it's based more around emotions and the tarot cards, you know. But for the Shin Megami Tensei franchise as a whole, you know, demons are not necessarily representing just a bad thing, but you know, any single piece of mythology, mythos, or beliefs, but pure manifested, you know, into a corporeal form.
You know,
so Sonic kind of fits that when you get down to it.
You know, it's funny you mentioned tarot cards, since as a Frontiers, the Sonic team remembered that Amy used to delve in with tarot cards, and they pretty much brought those.
Well, remember, Jova, at least with your Persona games, each of the character, both your friends and the enemy, do represent one of the tarots.
So Amy could potentially participate when you get down to it.
Alright then, so what rank did you got?
Let's see.
A.
Oh, still an A.
You were saying, British man?
What?
Well, last I checked, Dwibs is a British man, unless something.
Yeah, but where did that come from?
Okay. Now, let's see how Sonic's toughest level handles in hard mode. Because I may not do Mad Space, but I will do the next best thing in terms of difficulty to you.
Joyful.
Well, Shiroi, I mean, Dwibs sometimes at random will ask me to say things in Portuguese for apparently no reason.
And I will say, it's weird. It wasn't my favorite before, but during my session recording this game for the channel, Final Rush has actually become my favorite Sonic level in this stage. Maybe it's the music, maybe it's because I've gotten really good at the grinding mechanics, or maybe it is just the atmosphere and how it fits in. That being said, pro tip, don't try the jump skip on hard mode. Why? Because there are a ton of artificial chaos waiting around the rails, and since while you're falling, they can hit you. Yes, they will absolutely tackle you into oblivion.
Sure, let's combine the questionable hit detection with by putting some more dickish enemies nearby.
Oh yes, artificial chaos are running rampant in this stage. Well, they didn't call it hard mode just for the looks. And you gotta be extremely fast with that one too. Well, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I kind of wish hard mode literally had a bit where you have to beat all the final story levels in precisely the amount of time that Gerald gives before the ship hits the Earth.
God, can you imagine? Sure, we can do that better. Woo!
But you'll never leave this place alive. Haha.
God, Eggman was just having a ball through all Crazy Gadget, leading Sonic to his untimely demise. But yeah, no, Final Rush really ramps it up a notch, as you can see in hard mode.
Still don't particularly understand, you know, the constant of the wobbling sound effect associated with the railing. I get that it might resemble you tilting potentially, but I don't get why it needs to be constantly present.
The wobbling sound is for when you go through the boosters. I guess Professor Jail created those to help whatever was riding on the rails go through quicker, essentially, since assuming that we are in space, maybe the Ark has a bit of an atmosphere around it that allows characters to breathe, so, you know, this and that. Also, I guess, to be fair, when activating the Eclipse Cannon, the bottom half of the Ark was blown out, so I guess one has to wonder if all this was originally inside before Eggman blew out the bottom half.
I mean, if it was designed to look that way, I get it. Yeah, maybe the bottom half was supposed to be expendable anyway, so not actually an inhabited part. I mean, it's made of rock when during the cutscene, so not necessarily, you know, actual components.
Whoops!
Jello has a very specific vision.
Of course.
One of my favorite of Jet's videos is the one in the arc where Eggman supposedly kills Sonic, and Tails is like, "You killed Sonic!" You're like, "I'm sorry, Tails. I didn't mean to. What did you think was going to happen? I thought he would turn into a werewolf or something. Why would that happen? Because I don't actually know, but..."
And here's one of the toughest bits here. Activating the instant melody and using the light speed dash while I have the electric shield on. Because yes, if you have the electric shield on, even light speed rings will get sucked in. And if too much gets sucked in, congrats, you've boned yourself.
Yeah. This is another aspect where having the dedicated light dash button mod helps a lot.
I'm guessing the idea is, hey, you know, it's an extra level of challenge if you have the electric shield on. Because, yes, you're this good, but you've also got to be super quick with the light speed rings. And yes, one last trick and trap. 2 artificial chaos guarding the case and preventing you from going down.
Jesus.
And you better get out before that thing slams down on you. Oh, and by the way, the falling debris is faster in this version.
Yeah, I can see that.
Hey, you actually got hit this time.
Gotta run, gotta run, gotta run, gotta run!
Gotta go fast.
Yes!
So I guess it's another A rank.
Let's see.
Usually Sonic's A ranks requirements are like 13,000, 14,000 around that area.
They're a lot smaller than the
what?
Well, we could call it quits, but you know what? I'm gonna do the 1A rank tougher to do than Mad Space's hard mode. Cannon's Core hard mode. Yes, sir?
The point requirements for heroes would be so much higher than this.
Yeah.
Although from what you tell me, you had fun A ranking those, Shiroi.
Yes.
Kudos. Okay.
Either that or so much resilience.
Cannon's Core hard mode, essentially. Great news! For the mech stages, you get pretty much no access to health packs.
Well,
Sorry.
it's hard mode, so...
It gets tougher, too. Much, much tougher. Hey, Big.
Bye, Big.
Hang in there,
Hi, Big.
kitty. Also, you get less of the time stop mechanics, essentially. What do I mean? Well, remember how as handy as that is, that also stops the timer? With less of these, that means you really have to pack it up and move, essentially.
Like Sonic Adventure 2 has a really good 100% reward. I don't particularly care for the super hard mode reward in Heroes. I feel like it's it's nothing worth going through all of the emblems, if you ask me.
I'll admit, unlocking Expert mode in Shadow is pretty nice since you get all these new hard levels along with a ton of new dialogue, essentially, which shows what the characters are doing after the events.
That is true, Jova, but I still don't like the practice of locking the important story details behind 100%.
Admittedly, most of them aren't too important, although, yes, that is essentially where it's established that Shadow is joining Gun, which
Yes, and that's something that I think should have been explained in the main story, not as a expert mode that you have to unlock after 100%ing the game. That's just...
I'll be honest, like, that was one of the few things of a 6 that made sense to me, since Shadow did make it clear he was ready to move on with his past and all that. And hey, joining Gun would definitely be a way to showcase that. Anyway, on to Eggman segment. Once again, more enemies, less health, and unfortunately, you do have to move a lot more here too.
Fortunately, I have a 100% save pilot beside the hedgehog, so when I do that game, I'll already have it.
Cool, yeah.
For showing it off, because I'm not 100% in the game again.
No, I don't blame you for that. Like, I like Shadow the Hedgehog, but I'm not gonna act like it's the best Sonic game 100% either. I forget, I think every level has cool dialogue to show off, so I'm guessing you'll edit it in a way that shows off all the dialogue.
No, I'm gonna show off the entirety of the export mode.
Nice.
Don't worry.
Come on.
You'll be not, I'm still wondering, I'm still pondering like a potential placement still for this year, because I would, if possible, I still would like to do this year at some point. But if not, that's okay.
That would be cool, yeah. Oh yeah, and speaking again, I guess, of Shadow stuff, yeah, as you probably know, Black Doom is apparently back in crap. I missed the secret room to get the barrier, and since I'm low on health, that means I'm here with the artificial chaos and the lasers.
Yeah, we still don't know who his new voice actor is supposed to be, neither if he's actually gonna have a different voice, by Big, than Patrick Starfish form. Oh, great camera placement.
Yeah, unfortunately, since there's a laser grid down there, you gotta hover it. But yeah, in addition to Black Doom being back, the Bio-Lizard is back once again. Well, I mean,
we knew already from some of the first teaser anyway.
That said, it seems like this version of Bio-Lizard does show off more personality, which once again suggests that he does have a personality there. And welcome to the treasure hunting hard mode. Yes, starting off with spike balls just to keep you on your toes, essentially. Luckily, I know a little trick, essentially, to skip those. Oh, isn't that nice? Big's cheering us on.
Bye, Big.
And the time is even more strict in this version, too, with how much the timer will go off, so happy hunting!
My timer will go on.
And also, just to add in more, there are blocks that can push you into the acid, essentially, if you don't stop them.
Good job. Hurry. Throw the switch and drain the liquid.
Right then.
Let's go. If the camera will not screw me
Fucking
over!
hell. I can't... Yeah, I couldn't see shit.
You can't see shit.
That camera is determined to kill me. Clearly part of Professor Gerald's master.
We found the real villain of the game, the cameraman.
The cameraman's the one who drove Professor Gerald insane. Okay, that's Rouge's segment of hard mode done. Now here's where the real, yes, Knuckles. Yes, an artificial chaos is blocking that door instead of the robot. That's a good signifier. And also, the timer block, instead of being on the top pillar, is now on a lower pillar. So now you gotta move even quicker before the laser door comes back on.
It kind of reminds me of the people who back in the day were making, from both id Software and, similar studios nearby, were making expansions for Doom and Doom 2. But were just some of the most dickish stuff possible, like the Plutonium experiment, because it had something similar to this, by adding, the equivalent of artificial chaos everywhere. And that one was done by an Italian, by the way, called Dario Casari.
Beautiful.
He now works for Valve.
Wow. And yeah, you gotta activate the switch again, because now blocking the top door are lasers.
I forgot if I already asked about them. Do we even know what kind of liquid is this supposed to be? This orange? Is like...
I believe this is the energy being used for the Bio-Lizard, since the orange liquid does show up in his stage, and... Oh! It's like he literally homed on me with his lasers.
Don't you
Of
just
course,
love
there's another one.
don't you just love when you're playing a unplayable cutscene during the level you still get hit?
Okay. To be fair, you can still move during when that thing. The camera shift is just that. It's just... I legit got unlucky there with that thing's laser.
Wait, how come everything's frozen with the bubbles?
Because of the
Oh,
timer.
Knuckles is...
Big,
Hi, Big.
how are you breathing underwater, Big?
Oh no!
I'm not so strong, you!
Jesus.
I doubt he's here.
His whole stick in Adventure was to actually get a, lifesaver in order to avoid that.
Oh, by the way, if you get blown back, you'll likely get blown back into the laser that's at the end of that hall, so yeah, try and do it in one go. Time for the final segment. Be ready to go fast and be ready to be careful, because, as before, the artificial chaos essentially rule the stage now.
It's all artificial chaos again. Holy shit.
Get this AI shit out of here.
You know, I mean, I assume Gerald had it in his best intentions to make good use of chaos, and to be fair, there was no way to know that chaos was, as cranky as he was. That said, what is up with the artificial chaos's behavior? They make the original chaos seem gentle by comparison. Like, they feel like they were born to hate and they gonna be hating.
Yeah, that is just unpleasant. Holy shit is not
Yeah,
that.
I hate this.
Okay, Sonic, that's enough.
Ugh.
Sonic, stop your bullshit, please.
Get the gold bug. Okay, good. So the switch should be up here, right? Nope, a barrier. Where's the switch? Why,
Barrier.
it's at the end of that laser grid, so time and bite or you'll get hit, because the water is carrying you there. Whoa!
Speak up!
What was that?
Oh, hey, Big, why are you fishing there?
Big, the station's gonna crash into the earth.
Pretty sure he doesn't care.
You see, guys, this is why he shows up in Shadow's cutscene of the stage, essentially. It's him realizing, along with Amy, that only Shadow can help. And yes, more artificial chaos now along the waterway.
Because that's what we need, to interrupt a segment about, a slide, very bullshit enemies.
They just copy and paste the thing in random locations.
Oh, almost got hit there.
Like, imagine if in Spyro 3, doing the slide in towards one of the final, segment stages, the ancient tomb one, the only one with each introduced one. Doing that slide, you got plastered through, like, say, the dog from Toasty from the first game, all over the place.
Oh my god.
And there, yep, A rank. I did it. I hard moded and A ranked the toughest mission in the entire game.
And all I got was this lousy t-shirt.
Well, I guess that's probably as good enough a place to end the game anyway, because...
Yeah, and I'm sure that the timing of a video does not play a factor into this.
None whatsoever. Well, that said, I guess maybe we can try and start our final thoughts essentially now. Now, I guess you can go first. Oh, wait, hold on. I accidentally left the game idle.
Thank you so much, everybody.
What's this?
For joining
An
us.
extra last story I seem
This
to have
next
left
song
in.
is
Hey, Johnny.
epic Crush 40. No matter where you are around the world.
And sorry guys, I seem to have the extra special mode modded in. Ladies and gentlemen, one last mod that I added in as a surprise. A mod that puts in the Sonic Symphony version of Live and Learn.
Huh.
I'm actually doing a new and improved version of this mod too, since actually, around the time when this remix was first made, a user on Game Banana by the name Blue did one. However, another user, this one, Blaze Hedgehog, made a new version essentially. One that uses the album version essentially. And I'm using the Big Finish version. What's special about the Big Finish version? Well, stick around for the credits and you'll see. That said, I am also going to see how far I can take this boss fight before he literally kills me. To get all the dialogue we can.
Yeah, also another thing from Sonic Time Shadow Generations. Now we know what those, dots thing that the Biolizard releases are supposed to be. Boils, more boils.
Yes.
That's very pleasant.
In regards to the laser, that's probably because he's fused with the cannon, but that being said, interesting how the laser comes from what looks like his most bottom region.
More like the navel than the crotch. I also love that the roaring of the laser sounds more like the one of a cheetah.
Or a jaguar, yeah.
I get it that lizards do not possess, that much of a ferocious sound. Come on, make it a T-Rex roar if you have to. There are the stock sound effects used for Jurassic Park.
Possibly assets or whatnot and what they could do with the tech at the time, since they definitely, going off of Sonic X Shadow Generations, have changed Biolizard's scream to sound more lizard-like.
Yeah, and also apparently when it does the Spheres of Shadow mouth attack, they don't pop anymore. That was kind of a nice sound effect.
Also, he now has a full row of razor-sharp teeth, too.
This is working. Sonic, how are you doing? We've almost got it.
Yeah, not even close, Sonic. We're gonna have to wait on Kepler meetings.
How hard can it be? It's only the fate of the Earth.
Sonic, don't say that!
Oh yeah, in regards to that, Shadow not having enough energy, Fairy Time, in addition to the list of reasons why the hero route is most likely canon when it comes to who won the final fight, probably part of the reason Shadow had less energy than Sonic was because he lost the fight against Sonic too. I was trying to switch, but apparently he said no, so yeah. God, I love how dramatic the dialogue gets. But yes, on the last ring...
Are you okay? Here I come, you creep!
Oh yes, and if you listen closer, in addition to the screen getting red, you'll even hear the arc getting closer to your Earth too. And the rumbling gets even more intense. I love how
they really wanted to have this song play out before they actually saved everyone.
Yes. I love
Imagine that's what do the Earth. Sonic and Shadow could have dispatched with him in seconds, but they were too busy listening to a song and do the song.
Shiri, I'm more surprised that Toby Fox hasn't done this concept yet. You accidentally killing an enemy because you want to listen to the entire song.
Huh.
Wow, that is
Shadow,
like...
That's just the desperation before death talking.
That is like the ultimate compliment from Shadow. And yes, when you are pretty much near the end, not only is he burning upon re-entry, your characters are burning upon re-entry.
And I think you're consuming a bit more ring energy as a result.
That too.
Not that much, but it seems to be.
It's funny you mentioned that though, Tio, because with the amount of rhythm game minigames that are in Undertale fan games, people really want it in an official release.
Maybe we're gonna get one in the Deltarune chapter, future chapters, who knows.
Out of time, you say?
I still love that the corpse of Lizard is just hanging in the background like that.
and yes.
This really is the Toon Priest final boss.
And yes, for Pedro's sake, I ended it on Shadow to give the awesome Shadow line.
No way that's getting through.
I love that line from Shadow.
Shadow, I beg you.
Maria.
Give them a chance to be happy.
You know, I will say this. One cool thing in one of the Sonic comp...
Quick Shadow, stop the arc before it gives somebody a seizure. Jesus.
All right.
Chaos
I
control.
will prevent the Pokemon disaster from consuming the Earth.
Shadow, you're a few years late on that.
So, you know, the thought occurs. Shadow
what you
falls to
wanted,
Earth
right?
while in super form,
my
gets so
promise I
damaged that he
made
nearly
to you.
dies and loses his memory. Sonic falls to Earth, not in super form. Face first, he gets up just fine. Skill
Well, do we even know
issue.
if Sonic fell? We don't even
In
see
Sonic
that.
Unleashed.
Well, it wasn't. To be fair,
you mean in that? I thought
to
you
be
were saying
fair,
right
it
now.
wasn't in normal form. It was in Werehog form.
That is true.
Okay, well, to be fair, he falls a second time. Well, okay, it's weird. He rises up from the center of the Earth, but then falls face first on the Earth's surface, essentially,
Fine, let's just
base
chuck
Sonic
it up
mode.
to. Let's just chuck it up to main character plot armor.
Where is Shadow?
I'll admit, even knowing that Shadow's signed, this scene is legit pretty sad. Especially when you do consider it a tail end to the game, and God, I can only imagine what people thought going through their heads when they thought this was going to be the last Sonic game, too.
Yeah, but to say,
I still don't like that preface just in principle. I just don't like the idea of taking away from a meaningful sacrifice like this.
not
But that's just
okay.
me.
Aside from that, I have to say, knowing that this, okay, if the thought process was that this was going to be the last game, I'm sorry, there's not that much of an epilogue. Like, sure, it's a good thing that the characters do reflect about, you know, their past and what we're gonna do in the future and everything, but I would have appreciated, you know, something a bit more. Maybe even other credits, you know, putting Steels of the World recuperating and the characters doing something about that.
I'd have just
Given
pulled
that...
I'd have just pulled a Beneath from Planet of the Apes and all
Oh,
this.
man.
Given that they were stretching with this game, essentially, like, they were trying to pack as much as they could, albeit while trying to hit, of course, the anniversary release date, partly because to fit the deadline, and also because, again, the Dreamcast was sadly dying at that point. I think if this game were remade, some things probably would have been done differently without the stressful bits.
Created the ultimate life form.
What's the matter, Sonic?
Someone died!
Someone just died!
Enemy's like, but how does that affect you personally?
Cool and blue is
Well, I hated the guy, but then I felt like he may have been the person I cared for the very most in that moment.
Sayonara, Shadow.
And that was enough for the internet.
Apparently Sega too, since they literally called
To
the
be
game
fair,
Sonic
they had
X
already
Sonic
had-
X Shadow.
To be fair, Shiro, they already had in contact. The contract was sealed by that point, you know.
Also,
Yeah, that's true.
Also, for some reason the credits refer to Unit P as 100p, which, yeah, no,
Okay.
that was just an accident and all that.
Enemies to friends to lovers, yes.
So that's another thing that I want to know, because maybe it's explained a bit better in both Shadow and Heroes. What happened to the arc in between, you know, before those games? Like, did Eggman just occupied it?
No.
No,
The arc was
it's
pretty
abandoned.
much just left alone and abandoned, because to be fair at that point, wasn't much use for it. The Chaos Emeralds were gone, and well, all it can pretty much just do is float through space, because yeah, try destroying a giant space station up and hoping that the debris doesn't fall down to Earth and cause problems. But yes, let's talk about this song here. Let me take you back to the year 2021 when we first heard about this thing called the Sonic Symphony. There were a lot of worries people had that certain tracks would get overlooked, or they would do the corporate thing and just go full orchestral, string instruments, and only, orchestral sounding stuff. And of course, a lot of people figured, there's no way they're probably even gonna bring back Live and Learn. Well, let me tell you, that concert was not only amazing, not only did they bring back the vocalist, not only did they bring on frickin' Nate Wants to Battle, probably the closest thing he got to an official Sonic game before he finally did get to do an official Sonic song for a new game. But yes, Crushed Rotor is brought back, and Johnny showed he can sing the song just as good, if not better. And
I just wish.
And it was incredible. Oh yeah, and speaking of which, the big finish. They include the extra bit added from the remix. Which times in perfectly with the last line given.
Rest easy, heroes.
Yeah, again, go rest our heroes.
Sonic Heroes.
That's the name of an X game.
Sonic Heroes.
Console,
That could be an
anyway.
interesting name. But now that truly is finally the end. Dwibs, if you will, give us your final thoughts.
Alright, positives. I really, really like the music. Well, I mean, as rare as Sonic game comes along where I don't like it.
Yeah.
I think graphically it's definitely a lot better than the first game.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not. The story's just kind of. I mean, it's not bad or anything. It's just, it's just pretty basic. Just save the day, and also we got to choose our new character. So here, one of them's a dual hogging bitch. The other one is a brooding, angsty guy who misses his best mates. And that's mostly about it. I did play the PS3 re-release of this at one point, so I'm pretty much basing it off that. I remember Sonic being a bit tricky to get to grips with the controls for me, because I rarely ever play the adventure games.
I've heard the PS3 and Xbox 360 versions are a bit tricky, but got patched later. I wouldn't know. I've never played those versions. I've just had the Steam version.
The Steam version is the same as those. The reason this game, the reason you don't remember is because the mods I gave you get you things better to how they were in the Dreamcast version.
Oh, I have played this game before the mods too, and I recall it, aside from some issues, not being too bad. Though, yeah, I'll admit, mods are definitely the definitive way. Mind you, just like, the performance enhancement ones, mostly.
Anything else I can mention?
Did you like all the different gameplay styles?
I mean, the treasure hunting ones aren't really my cup of tea. I'm more into the speed and the mech shooting ones, because mech shooting ones have my favorite thing of being able to shoot everything around you
and get points for it.
Yep. And the speed levels, well, Sonic, it's part of this main gimmick, and it looks very fun, even if I had a bit of a hard time getting used to the controls.
Mm-hmm.
That's honestly about it. I mean, it's a solid game to end Sega's first-party console career on. And it just also by extension, if there's one to get to start making their games for systems that aren't their own, unless you count Sonic Pocket Adventure.
The transition between classic and adventure era. Since Eggman literally changes jackets in that game.
Interesting little tidbit there. That's what I'll say about it. I think it's solid enough. There are some things that maybe they could have been a bit better on, but ultimately, I say it's good. I wouldn't mind seeing a remake of this if it ever happened, but at the same time, I can also understand Sonic Team not wanting to just rehash everything all the time. Try and do new things with the series, because I'm not sure how many of them are still there from Sonic 06, but I can gather they still have nightmares about it. So they want to try and do their own thing for now.
I get the idea, Dweebs, of what Denver Sega recently made a statement about they're trying to make a bit of an aggressive kind of marketing by having a yearly release of the three main focusing franchise that they have, SMT, like a Dragon and Sonic. And when it came to Sonic, they did mention that in order to fill in the gaps between big games, they were going to focus on re-releases. So something has to be expected at some point.
And as a result, we've gotten speculations like Sonic X Silver, Unleashed, Sonic X Blaze, Sonic 06, Sonic X Eggman, Sonic Heroes.
I will gladly take something added onto Unleashed just to explain what was happening at the same time for a
Don't
couple
quit
of
your day
characters.
jobs, guys.
You see, Shirai, by the end of it, Sonic will be shipped with everyone. The true
God,
holy matrimonian
The
union.
Omni-ship, aka
Sonic-
free food.
Sonic and his 100 partners.
Yes.
If any one of us was in charge of Sonic Team, there would be chaos in one form or another.
Nice, and the 100 hedgehogs that really.
I would just make the game. I would just make the game where I would just make a Sonic game with a morality system where Sonic can just kill everybody, but it can also impact his popularity or something.
So Shadow the Hedgehog.
Well, okay, a morality system doesn't suck.
I'm overall fine with that morality system, but I get your game there. But of course there'd be chaos in some form, Dwibs. I'd bring back Chaos Zero, of course.
And then I kill him off a second after he shows up.
He's technically dead, but yeah.
Yeah, but I can kill him again.
Alright.
But yeah, that's it. That's it for me. It's solid.
Shirai?
Obviously, it's very heavily improved with mods. This is an old game and such, and the ports and such have not been good, really. But I think as somebody who did play the base game, I think it's still a fine experience even without that. Just in its original form. Well, I say that the version I had was Battle, which was not the original form, but you know what I mean.
Oh, look, I say that some graphical issues aside, Battle is definitely the definitive way to play the game. Well, assuming you don't have it on Steam and with mods. I mean, yeah, like, well, strictly speaking, console-wise, Battle was a beefed-up Dreamcast version, and, it has the better intro for sure.
Music's great. I still think there's plenty of variety, even if Adventure did have slightly more. I'm not sure what else to say.
Which would you say you liked better between Adventure 1 and Adventure 2?
I mean, they're both quite different, considering they're both adventure games. So, I think it depends on what specific aspects, because I prefer how more open Adventure is, because as I said in an earlier part, the world feels a bit more lived in that way. But this method of stage to stage isn't bad either, and I do like the alternative POVs. That's fun. So I don't know. It just depends on what day you ask me which one I prefer, really. Story's good. A bit. There's janky dialogue that you expect in this particular couple of games, so it's still fun.
And the music?
I think that's it, really. Oh, I'm pretty sure I already said the music's great. Yeah, I did already comment on the music. Yeah.
Yeah, I think she did.
This is more so, would you say it's your favorite Sonic soundtrack, or...
Ooh, and I don't think I've listened to it enough outside the games to actually say that.
Fair enough.
Because Hero soundtrack I've listened to a lot, Unleashed, Frontiers, but outside of the game, I should do that more with these two. It has some of the best vocal songs in the series, though. Honestly, I'm pretty sure most of us know that. And again, nice that Rouge's theme is getting a lot more love these days. It seems.
Yep.
I think that's it for this.
All right.
I'll go next. It's overall, fine. I've seen that a lot of people. I know that because of how big the Sonic fan base is, it's natural that it's gonna be split. Because I've seen a lot of discourse, even recently, that mentions about the whole narrative about the Sonic Adventure duology not being good was not something that people on YouTube, invented. They were never good, and you're just, lying to yourself. And I think it's just a tad generalizing. As someone who's, only dipping their toes in this franchise, occasionally because of the entire kind of worlds attached to it. I think this is fine. Could have been better, yes, but I don't think it's as bad as it's claimed.
And thankfully, the discourse is not as bad as it was in the 2010s. Like, holy cow! Not gonna go into detail of that, but you want to talk Dark Ages of Sonic? More like the Dark Age of the discourse and bullying of Sonic.
Watch Shao Mix's video on the topic. He made it recently.
But okay, I like 2/3 of the game technically in terms of gameplay because the speed stages, like I said, that's usually my weakness when it comes to Sonic games. The speed stages are overall, engaging and fine, and I genuinely like the shooter max stages. I kind of wish they get an entire game around just that concept alone. Not attached to Sonic, make it an original EP if you had to. The treasure stages are just garbage, I'm sorry. No amount of, polishing and good music with Pumpkin Hill will make me, dread the time that I lost in all of them, and the fact that most of them are just, anxiety-inducing and just a waste of my time at the end of the day. I'm sorry. It's a shame because, like you said, like you just said, the music is not that bad for them, and, flowing into that, the music overall, the music tracks in this game are overall great. I do possess a couple of them in my playlist, so that's a testament to something, I suppose.
Nice.
Going back to also the presentation, the models are technically okay, especially for the year this game was made and for Dreamcast, technology. So, and although I know that the battle version touched upon them, and I know it's another point of contention because people prefer the Dreamcast look of the characters. But so there is that. As for the voice acting, okay, to mention it as a whole, it's technically fine, because especially under the conditions these people were actually, going into, Ram Drummond works really well for Sonic and Dean Bristol for Eggman, there's nothing there. Tails is fine. He was just a kid. He was working what he had, so props for managing to turn out something that was not, ear screeching or just cringe. The kid really managed to make it work out. Knuckles is fine, but I wouldn't, say that it's, the best voice actor. And then again, okay, it's kind of struggling. The fact that over the years, Knuckles really is probably the character that struggled to have, a very good, stable voice actor, sticking around. Travis Willingham, I think it was fine for the most part, but even then you can tell maybe it wasn't as peak as a voice fitting for the character could be. Idris Elba, I think I already mentioned when we commented on the movie, technically is fine, but it's just, the best case of a celebrity attached to the role, more than anything. I kind of would wish to think of a proper voice actor attached to it for also the game. But again, I have to check properly, again, the cutscenes in Frontiers to see how his more recent voice actor works for those. So for all I know, it works better there. And I'm sorry if it sounds mean, but Lani Minella's Rouge really, really doesn't work to me. Look, I know she had a really bad time with Yuji Naka. That I will not deny that. But I'm sorry. It just doesn't fit. I'm sorry. I know that the 4Kids voice actress, voice, gets demeaned as a result. But I honestly think that one fits more the character than Lani Minella. Lani Minella just doesn't it's not the kind of voice that I managed to associate with the character design of Rouge. I'm sorry. Then again, okay, remind me again, who's his voice recently starting with Generations? I forgot.
I forgot. The recent voice actress does your typical femme fatale voice.
Okay. Like, I will say this. Ironically, Tio, you're definitely going against the main grain because for a lot of people, Lanny is their favorite Rouge. Partly because they don't like how later actresses up the sultry take of Rouge. Like, I guess their thing is like with Lanny Minella, the idea is that despite Rouge being sexy, she wasn't completely all in that, especially with how much she could lose her composure and just
The problem with that is that a lot of the time it sounds to me that there's a bit of underacting to that. I don't know. It seems to lack energy. I don't know if I can manage to explain it well enough, but it feels like the Lani is just. It gives me the mood of Lani. Is just reading the lines more than anything.
I can understand Teo's underacting argument because her yeah, that could have been delivered better.
Yeah, I mean, and I will say this: I'm actually somebody who does not hate 4Kids Rouge's voice. In fact, hers might be my favorite, mainly only because the voice actress in Generations didn't really have much of a going, and Karen Strassman is, I guess she's trying.
Anyway, to close quickly also for the voice acting, let me talk about something I wanted to talk about for a couple of parts, but I think is best reserved here. The argument that about what Yuji Naka did, specifically about inserting, Japanese words into the lingo in order to spice things up. I'm not, what I'm about to say does not really condone Yuji Naka for any of his behavior, and that includes how badly he treated the voice actors and the fact that he not accepted critiques, or second opinions. But I kind of like the thought process. The idea that finally someone was trying to, instead of actually slapping a barrier towards the language difference and saying, oh no, this cannot work in English, was instead trying to say, let's try to normalize a couple of words more into the English vocabulary so it feels more fit and maybe future projects can also, move on to there. It's like planting the seeds kind of thing. And honestly, in the final product, most of them work out to me. The only thing that I think really just feels a bit out of order is Eggman saying Yosh with the Chaos. But, Sonic saying Teria or, Knuckles saying Ora Ora Ora, that really works out. And as it was proven in recent times, thanks to, the anime adaptation of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, that kind of, battle cry works out and becomes memorable even for a Western audience. So I get, again, as much as dirty as it sounds, I think Yuji Naka was onto something. He just needed to stop being egocentric for a goddamn second,
Mm-hmm.
But that's basically me on the matter. As for the story itself, I guess I would like to give a look to that mod that showcased what the original script was. I can imagine it's not too different from what we got, but I am curious indeed. And as a story, it's technically fine, and I like it technically more than Adventure 1, technically. The thought process is still very nice, and they're similar to, in concept, the idea that multiple characters are doing their own thing, and eventually things converge. But in this case, it's more concentrated, rather than just being vague, with each of them doing a thing and, ultimately having a single point. Like eventually, I do kind of miss a bit the hub word, but I agree with Pedro. Maybe they shouldn't be as big, and easy to get lost, but something more contained and not necessarily sprinkled between each stage. Something that will fit with the pace, I think. But I don't know. I think it would have worked out better that way. I don't think there's... Okay, yeah, they're going to talk about much about the Chao Garden. Look, I know it has its fans, but I don't care. Probably should have been a separate game. It stands to me kind of like the card game stands in Final Fantasy to Pedro. It's cute, but I'm not really gonna touch it. Sorry, I just don't care. Not even in the sense that I suck at it, or something, because it's literally a chow raising simulator. It's not that hard. It's literally just for a cozy side experience and everything. But it feels too much smack dab, and like I said, the game is to me is a bit too short to justify replayability over and over and over again to farm everything to farm for your chows. Not even the alternate versions like hard mode or anything really would justify that. I'm sorry. In a bigger game, maybe like say Frontiers, for example, that probably would have worked better, because you have a lot more time to waste and things to gather. But no, for this one, I don't feel it, But the idea is cool for a standalone game, which supposedly that's what they're making, so who knows. But that is pretty sure that's just me at this point. That's all I can say. Maybe I did forget a few things, but I'm pretty sure it might be something that I already mentioned. Pedro.
Okay, so let's get the obvious stuff out of the way. The presentation. I'm actually okay. Let me put it this way. The graphical fidelity is better than Adventure 1, but I still kind of prefer Adventure 1's art direction. Not so much the quality of the graphics and stuff. I'm talking about the art direction specifically, because I feel like there was. I feel like if they kept the art direction of Adventure 1 and now do it better with better graphical fidelity, I feel that could have looked really cool. But this game still looks fun for what it is. Don't get me wrong. The music is brilliant. I mean, what else needs to be said? Although, like I said, I do think Adventure 1 soundtrack is a bit like... I prefer the way Adventure 1 handled its music placement and overall structure, I feel like. It felt like there was more variety going on from track to track for me when I'm playing. But yeah, that's basically it. Now let's talk about the gameplay. I'll do my best, Manila. Let me tell you about Sonic and Shadows games. Sonic and Shadows games are cool action speed games. However, there is something to be said about the way this original game was designed, because what Jova played here was an optimized version that I provided for him. So allow me to talk about the gameplay in its original Dreamcast incarnation. Whoever thought it was a good idea to map every single thing to the B button?
Yuji Naka.
What? No, wait, we don't. Okay, no. That's the thing. That's the thing too. We don't have evidence that it was him, but that's the highest.
The shoe fits.
It's the most probable scenario. It really is. So, yeah.
Especially given how, look at where we are now. Like, the homing attack is even on a different button than the jump button nowadays compared to back then.
Because remember, you have to use the B button to, and remember, like in the battle version, they made it so that you can't use the somersault in the Chao Garden, which means you can't accidentally. So even they realized when they made the battle version that having everything tied to the same button was an issue. So why didn't you fix it in the battle version then? It's
probably because Yuji Naka wouldn't allow it.
Yeah, probably.
Again. I know it could have been anyone, but Yuji Naka has, kind of been infamous for doing stuff with one button to the point where he literally just recently made a game where everything is done with one goddamn button.
You don't have to just bring up that game. Like, his history speaks for itself. But, okay. So, yeah, I have all of those buttons because, again, in the original game, so many times will you have to do some kind of light dash in the middle of the air, and unless you're positioned specifically accurately, or maybe if the game decides to do something else, you could bounce attack instead, causing you to die and losing your A rank, which was annoying in the original release. Thank God for the modders for fixing that shit. So yeah, so that's an issue. Also, the actual level design of the speed stages is a bit more linear and more involved, although I do wish they could have tried to expand upon what Adventure 1's level design philosophy was doing instead. But at the same time, I understand that they wanted this to be more arcadey in nature, I guess.
I guess Sonic 06 tried to bring back the wider levels.
Well, yeah, and it completely destroyed itself in the process. But that's a topic. Well, we already talked about that topic. The point is, Sonic and Shadows games are fine. Now let me tell you about the Tails and Eggman's games. Tails and Eggman's games are okay shooting games.
That being said, okay, I will say this. Like in the original version, before modding, the controls for Eggman and Tails could get a bit iffy, especially when because remember, one of the things that this game does, is that the longer you're chaining, forming a chain, the harder to control the mech becomes.
Really? I never had that issue even on the GameCube version.
Well, whatever. The point is, it can be a bit iffy. But that being said, they're not bad necessarily. It's just that I still don't like the idea that Tails has to now be relegated to a mech, to a Dr. Eggman clone, when he had a perfectly viable playstyle in Adventure 1 that should have been expanded upon. But
if I may...
Yeah, we already know why that's the case, so...
Oh, yeah. Oh, no. I wasn't going to say that's like... I'm okay with Tails in the mech, but my big thing is... Whenever the mech sinks into sand or, falls into space or goes into water... Why doesn't he just fly out of the mech? Is he stupid?
Yep. Apparently Tails...
Yes,
apparently Tails' legs stopped working for some reason. But anyway...
Except for the Chao Garden, which I guess heals his legs.
Okay. That being said, the stages are still relatively fine. Do I still think the practice of putting these in a Sonic game can be a bit iffy, because I still feel like Tails should have still played more like an expansion of his Adventure 1 gameplay rather than this.
You know what I would go for? One that has both his on-foot and mech gameplay. Oh, wait, right, Frontiers did that.
Exactly, yeah. Okay, now let me tell you about the Knuckles and Rouge's games. Knuckles and Rouge's games are pretty bad treasure hunting stages, because remember, what Jova played here is an optimized version.
Yeah.
In the original Dreamcast version, you have to deal with such a shitty, broken radar that doesn't benefit you in any way, shape, or form, because so many times you'll be robbed of an A rank because an emerald was right next to you and you couldn't see it because the radar wasn't beeping like it would be in Adventure 1.
It really is a shame.
So, yeah, and that makes the treasure hunting stages more frustrating than they need to be. And it's sort of wrong. The hard mode is, of course, a bit more... removes that problem a bit, because you still have the issue that it still only detects one emerald at a time. Again, this one design decision really crippled these stages. It's so annoying. But yeah, that's it for most of the gameplay. The kart racing, it's, you might as well, for the time it was a fine novelty, I guess, but in today's day and age, you might as well just go play Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing Transformed. There's not really any reason to go back to this. And unless, of course, you need to get the emblems, of course, but aside from that, there's no reason to play these ever again, honestly, for me. And the Chao world, I love the Chao world because I really like I think it's really well designed. But like Teo said, yeah, this would fit better as its own franchise, because a lot of Sonic fans don't want to have to go through Chao stuff to get their Green Hill stage. So this should become its own franchise, and it didn't up until recently because Sega were idiots.
That, or I'm fine with it being in the game, but I feel like it should have just been you get collectibles from the levels for it. I think it would have been fine if it wasn't required for unlocking Green Hill.
Anyway, yeah, that's basically it. The story. The story is fantastic conceptually. It does like Shadow's overall story is full of great themes, like Dark Lord Shadow 1 mentioned in his review. What this game needs is an extra draft of the script, because all the necessary ingredients are here for a fantastic Sonic story. You just need to have a better writer for this. If they made a remake of this game with Ian Flynn rewriting the story, we'd be golden.
From what we've seen from Sonic X Shadow Generations for the Shadow campaign, yes, Flynn is confirmed to be writing. I definitely agree with you on that.
No, that's what they need. They have all the great ideas are here. They just needed a better writer, as well as some do-overs for the story, which again they probably couldn't do because of the rushed production. And that's basically it. Like Shadow, of course, being my favorite character. I mean, this is basically Shadow's story for all intents and purposes. So obviously, he would be the character that shines the most. I'm not gonna talk so much. I don't mind Lani Minella's Rouge. I think she sounds fine. Although I do actually like how she sounded in Generations. Honestly, I didn't see much. She sounds more flirty than previous actresses, but I still think it's fine. But Lani Minella is still fine. I enjoyed since I'm the only one who says this, I might as well say one final time. Like, I still really appreciate what David Humphrey was able to accomplish as Shadow in these conditions, because he's my favorite Shadow to this day. Because whenever there's an emotional scene between Shadow and Maria, David conveys a vulnerability in Shadow's voice that I haven't really heard since. And there's just something there's a very human vulnerability in his tone of voice that really humanizes Shadow a lot for me, that I haven't really seen replicated since, and I kind of miss it. But yeah, that's basically it. I really wish how David Humphrey would have done in Shadow Generations if he was still around, if he would with better conditions, right? But that's just
You mean have him voice younger Shadow if Shadow were to meet his younger self?
Well, like I said, I want to still give Kirk Fortin a chance at voicing Shadow now that he has a better writer writing for the character.
I'm strictly speaking about younger Shadow, as in if Shadow met his younger self, have Kirk Fortin voice modern Shadow and David Humphrey voice old Shadow, because remember, originally they were going to get back Jaleel White to voice classic Sonic and Generations.
No. But in that case, no, that doesn't really make much sense for me. To me, it's just one voice actor for Shadow, and that's it. I don't. The idea of I'm kind of Izuka. He actually recently had an interview where he talked about a potential classic Shadow, and he thought that Shadow is a modern Sonic character, and it doesn't really feel right to put him in the classic era. And I can understand his reasoning. This character was not made for the classic style of Sonic games. It was clearly made for a different type of style. So I kind of agree with Izuka on that. I don't see a point in it would be a nice, funny novelty, I guess, but that's all it would be. I kind of agree with Izuka on that. Overall, I've already said that the music is brilliant. It's not, like I said, I still prefer Adventure 1. I still have yet to hear a Sonic soundtrack that comes even close to Adventure 1 for me, because I just love that soundtrack so much that it's not even funny. The point is, the game is good. And if you mod it like we've done it here, it raises up to pretty good. But yeah, you have to go through a lot of hoops to get this game operating on optimum efficiency. Showcasing that, this game should definitely need an overhaul. Not necessarily a remake, but something that's akin to Crisis Core Reunion or Gears of War Ultimate Edition. Something that's like a middle ground between a remake and a remaster. Something that overhauls it to some extent while still preserving the core aspects.
Okay, considering it's been a long time, I'm guessing someone did it as a fan project. Did someone try to recreate the cutscenes using the Sonic Generation models and engines?
No, not that I've seen.
I don't think I've seen any of those. I have seen a fan... Well, I guess it's more of a fan remaster, since it's obviously using assets from Adventure 2. But yes, a new spiffy-looking HD one that even includes some inserted voice clips and everything.
Yes. It's called Modern Sonic Adventure 2. It's an ambitious mod that basically is trying to update the game to modern standards as much as possible. But anyway, that's it for me. Jova, close us out.
Just before we go, Jova, the one thing that I forgot to mention that I think it was worth mentioning, Amy, because if it wasn't for that speech that she does to Shadow towards the end, Amy is really just the weakest link in the entire game when you get down to it, because she only exists. Sure, okay, I guess she bails Sonic out, but it was kind of implied he was going to do that himself anyway at some point. But for the most of the game, she's just basically a load that she's carried around, and I get it why she's not playable, because the team literally could not squeeze anything anymore and wanted to keep the duality thing. But as a result, Amy comes across more like just as, a weight that has to be carried around, and towards the end, she basically functions as an hostile situation so that Sonic can get into that situation. It's just, compared to Adventure 1, extreme downgrade. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I agree.
I feel like the deal with Amy was they were stuck at a crossroads of, okay, should we just do this without Amy in and risk angering her fans, or should we still include her and show how she is capable by busting Sonic out and helping convince Shadow that he's right? And I guess if it were up to me, what I might have done was either add in another evil character to counteract her and let them both be playable, which, okay, I'm gonna be fair, that probably was not plausible given the rushed development. So I want to say they did the best of what they could, given how making a game is never easy, so just going back on one thing or another wouldn't have been an easy, quick solution. And this is the way to show that, yes, Amy is still a factor, since this was around the time where, yes, Sega and Sonic Team were focusing on having continuity, and that meant acknowledging characters are still there. Big being the one exception, because he was just that hated. If it weren't for, I guess, Izuka, since he was the one in charge of the project, liking Big enough to make him literally appear in every level, essentially, Big might have been forgotten. But I guess Big got enough goodwill from those cameos to the point where he was brought back for Heroes, so I guess it worked out for the big guy. But yeah, no, in regards to Amy, I absolutely get where you're coming from on that. I think that she gets a relatively fine enough role, but like many things in Adventure 2, it could have been better. Could have been better.
Alright, go on, Jova.
But yeah, no, again, maybe it's because I'm the one who recorded this, but coming back to Adventure 2 was a very emotional thing for me. In a good way, mind you. And I'll admit, believe it or not, Adventure 2 was not my first 3D Sonic rodeo. That was Heroes. Then I did Shadow. So yes, I had done Sonic Heroes and Shadow before playing the adventure games, so admittedly it was kind of fresh coming back to those games after doing Heroes and Shadow, essentially, and I must say it was very fascinating. Okay, I will say this right now. Playing Shadow before Sonic Adventure 2 actually helped the surprise with Gerald surprise me more, because, let's just say that by Shadow, we focused more on Gerald's good points. I had no idea that Gerald goes flipping insane and actually tries to kill everyone in Adventure 2. I did see, some of the flashback snippets you get in Shadow, which, again, getting a bit ahead of myself, that game has a ton of really well-done references. I don't just mean story references, there are literally some levels that take cues from the stage design to the point where you're literally flying through Final Rush, essentially. But yeah, consider Shadow, probably the closest thing to a direct sequel of Adventure 2. Regardless, though, coming into the adventure games was an interesting experience, especially since I did do the first adventure first, so that helped my enjoyment of Adventure 2 all along. Adventure 2 was regarded as the best Sonic game for quite a time, up until the 2010s, which, as we've hinted at, the dark age of the fan base of Sonic and whatnot, to the point where some people were starting to think, and some argue that, Sonic Adventure 2 was actually bad save for the Sonic stages, and it was the progenitor for what some people considered the bad qualities of that. I overall disagree. I feel like Adventure 2 put out a good showing for most of it. It's just that later games, 06, pretty much ruined them down the road, honestly. Yes, technically it did have tropes that would become a problem. But I don't believe it was Adventure 2's fault that later games made that a problem, essentially, since they were overall good ideas here. I will say, I love this game for making Eggman playable. Rouge was a nice addition and, giving us a female character who wasn't really all that much a good guy, essentially, as well as giving Knuckles his own rival. And yes, Shadow made quite the debut as Sonic's latest and greatest rival. Like, let me just say, I feel sorry for Silver, because looking back at Adventure 2, I get all the more what 06 was trying to recapture. The glory of the new big and bad rival who's also a hedgehog to Sonic, essentially. Like, the thing is, though, Adventure 2 worked with Shadow so brilliantly, so magnificently, that of course he became the second most popular character of the whole franchise. He was just that well handled. And as you know with Silver, he did not start off great on entry. He got better. Thankfully got better, but yeah, no, rough start. I get what they were going for, it didn't work out. Now let's talk out as to why it worked out great with Adventure 2 here. Every character, I feel, does get a superb moment. Yes, even Amy. Not as much as the others, so let's start with Amy, though. Yeah, like I said, I don't hate Amy's role in this game. I absolutely get the complaints, though. But I do feel like, again, given the fact that obviously she can't be playable in the story mode, what they do with her is relatively fine enough. Heck, sometimes it feels like she's more coordinated with the team effort than Knuckles is. Despite the fact that Knuckles still accomplishes more in the long run, essentially. But yeah, her busting out Sonic is nice, and I do like how, she goes, well, if I breast you out, will you marry me? He's like, no way. It's not even like she holds it against him. It's like, oh well, I tried, and then lets him out. Like, that's good, Amy, obviously crushing on Sonic, but not letting that blind her or drive her insane to the point where she would literally kill Sonic just to get him to marry her. Good lord.
I.e. then literally the next game after this.
Sonic, this time there's no way out of marrying me, or Sonic, give up. This time you're mine.
Like I said in our 06 run, a lot of people like to dog on it, and don't get me wrong, for a good reason, it should be dogged on, but for me, my personal worst moment of Amy's flenderization from that era was her saying to Silver, and I quote,
even if Sonic were,
like if Amy loves Sonic because he's a hero. If Sonic became a villain, she would not love him anymore. That's ridiculous.
It honestly says something that 06 has a worse showing for Amy than the game where she did legit become a yandere.
If you want to see peak Amy characterization, read issue number 2 of IDW written by Ian Flynn.
Oh yeah, like IDW in general is great. Also, I think Ian Flynn also wrote the Sonic Universe comic, which does a nice cheeky reference to Adventure 2, where Shadow is once again about to fall to what appears to be his death, but Sonic catches him and says, yeah, we're not doing that again. Love that stuff.
Or of course, her Hurricane Frontiers. That works too.
Yeah,
also written by Ian Flynn. Also written by Ian Flynn.
Frontiers had amazing arcs for all the characters. It was so great, especially since Ian Flynn worked in some of the issues that had come from previous games, Tales, and it helped to improve them. But again, that's a talk for another time. But Amy in Adventure 2, I'm fine with her in this one. I get the wishes that she could have done more, and who knows, maybe in a remake they could let her do more, essentially. But for what she has, it's fine, and yeah, the damsel, but again, look, I'll say this. Just because a trope is there doesn't mean it's bad. Tropes are tools. You can have a damsel in distress, but it can still help the story well enough. Amy does get into trouble, but that's not her only role in the game, essentially, so I'm overall fine with it, especially since it did give us one of Eggman's best scenes, which, yeah, good enough transition. Eggman, promoted to playable at long last, and gets what I will still argue is his best theme, EGGMAN, or Eggman, of course. He is an absolute boss in this game. Like, you play as him, doesn't mean he is any less threatening, because the feats he pulls off, from busting into government facility after government facility, calling the shots, risking life and limb, making the most best calculations, even dealing with the being that betrays him in record time, essentially. Eggman was at possibly the top of his game in, well, this game, essentially. Don't get me wrong, Mike Pollock, I get why people do consider Mike Pollock the definitive Eggman voice. He is just that awesome. But props to Dean Bristow, man. Like, they picked an excellent Eggman actor to go into the transition to 3D levels, essentially. God, can you imagine if classic Eggman was voiced by Jim Cummings? But, yeah, no, Dean Bristow, and yes, rest his soul, he's dead now, but Dean Bristow was fantastic. It is just a shame that whatever he was recording in decided to lower the volume on his voice notably. Never did get that sound mixing thing, honestly. I don't know if that had to do with, like, the localization issues or whatnot, and, like, if he's better in the Japanese voice, you know, with the sound balancing specifically, but it's weird. But no, back to Eggman. Peak form. I love playing pretty much all of his stages, essentially. And, you know, honestly, in a weird meta sense, I kind of view it as him honoring the memory of Gamma, because, yeah, while Gamma did betray him, though we don't even know if Eggman was aware of Gamma's betrayal, given how that was going on, but I digress. Gamma to Eggman was one of his best creations, so I can understand him wanting to model his fashion after Gamma's. Heck, we even see he made copies of Gamma, too, not just in this game, but also in Sonic Battle as well. Again, really good stuff, and yeah, I do enjoy the mech gameplay. I'll talk more about that when I get to the gameplay, but yeah, no, top showing. I definitely can believe he was always meant to be the main architect when it came to the mech style gameplay before Tails was added to the mix, essentially. But yeah, no, Eggman is fantastic, and for all intents and purposes, he had Sonic dead to rights with that little capsule trick that he pulled, essentially, which, hey, again, kudos to him, he really gave it his all. And I like how, despite the fact that Sonic survives, he ain't even too mad. Like, that is one thing that this game does point out well, is that Sonic and Eggman have something of a grudging respect for each other, essentially. So, of course, Eggman's like, huh, you really are just that persistent for a hedgehog. Like, he's not even blowing a gasket, he's like, well, gee, of course he survived. Well, I guess I'll have to try again later when the world isn't being threatened with imminent destruction. But yeah, no. Great Eggman showing. Next, let's talk about Rouge. Very good introduction for our rival character to Knuckles. Like, yeah, aspects of Knuckles being a treasure hunter were always there, so what better thing to do than to pit him against a literal thief who is out to claim every jewel she can. Now, if we do get a remake, I assume they will probably include a scene of Rouge stealing the Master Emerald, since the main way to know that she's stolen the Master Emerald before they show up in the pyramid area is if you get the previously on things. Yeah, that was one thing I sadly didn't show. I was thinking about doing it, but there's a ton of them, and I kind of had a bit of a hard time justifying giving a whole part just dedicated to the previously ons, which I probably would have had to have either needed to start a new game for or look up on YouTube, essentially. Which is a shame, because they are really cool also. Yeah, that's another thing the remake could include. Options to rewatch previously on segments, essentially. Where each character gives their take on what's happening at the time and whatnot. But yeah, no, back to Rouge. Really good femme fatale character, and the way Lanny portrays her is interesting. Like, she can do the sexy thing, but she loses her composure when she is clearly angered and whatnot. And, you know, I will give Lanny Manoa this. I feel that she did a superb job with the voice direction. That is also paying to mind the hardships she had to go through, because Yuji Naka himself, in his ever-glorious attitude, thought he would be a better voice director to direct English-speaking actors than, well, you know, somebody who actually had experience with it. Right down to saying that they needed to look the part to voice it, which really does make you wonder what he meant with the people voicing animals, essentially. Were they planning to develop a ray that would turn them into animals to look like their characters? God, how's that for a bendy story? But yeah, no, again, Lani Minella portrays a pretty good Rouge. I don't hate her other voice actresses. I'll talk more about them when we get to more respective games involving them, essentially. May have talked about the 4Kids one in 06, but again, I digress, though. Rouge's thing is, like, it's interesting. She is essentially the Revolver Ocelot of this game, essentially. She is playing all the alignments to the point where, while it is revealed she was working for the president, I'm willing to believe that if Eggman had succeeded, she probably would have just sworn allegiance to him and just said, hey, let me get all the jewels in the world? Oh, okay, fine. And boom. Because she really put in a lot more work for Eggman than she arguably could have needed to. Could have been her controlling the damage and whatnot, and I presume, hopefully, she warned Gunn enough to get their people evacuated. Although probably not, given how one of them was in that mech, essentially, that she destroyed. That, or it was all a very elaborate ploy. But that's just the charm with Rouge. She keeps you guessing in this game, essentially. It's ironic that she's called Batgirl, because when you get down to it, she's kind of like the Catwoman to Knuckles'... Well, I'm not sure Batman, because Knuckles ain't exactly cool and collected, but, you know, pretty much the Catwoman to his Batman in regards to encouraging the chase and whatnot and having secret feelings for him, which, yes, holy cow, those two do need to get a room, but they are pretty cute together, honestly. And it is nice how Rouge manages to even sacrifice the Emerald Shards to give to Knuckles, which she probably is happy she did, given how the Master Emerald helped save the flipping day, so... yeah, good story for Rouge. Which, speaking of Knuckles, yeah, let's talk about him. It's nice to see a relatively good and confident Knuckles. Not too much follow-up from his story in Adventure 1, but admittedly that was more or less closed off essentially with him just rationalizing the fact that he would have to deal with it because it's his duty or whatnot. This is something I'm glad Frontiers picked up on well, though that being said, I am willing to bet money that the Master Emerald being small enough for Knuckles to carry was intentional in that one scene in the last story, if only because I think they were considering maybe making it so that Knuckles could carry the Master Emerald around better to justify him coming around on plots, essentially, since, as you recall, after Adventure 2, Knuckles... wow, as some call me, Johnny joked, was probably leaving a robotic dog to guard the Master Emerald, because heroes? Ah, sure, I can come. Shadow? Oh, yeah, I can help out. Admittedly, Black Arms were going after the whole Earth, so I can see him joining the fight for that. That being said, by the time of Sonic 06, there was pretty much no mention of the Master Emerald whatsoever. Got pretty weird. And yes, I know, reboot and all that, but 06 turned out to not be a reboot, so isn't that just a little bit awkward?
Not just that, remember, Jova, it erases itself out of continuity by the end, so...
So, 06 was just that time everyone was getting drunk and out of character, so we used the Chaos Emeralds to erase it from history.
Sure.
But yeah, no, Knuckles is fine here. He does his role relatively fine enough. It is a bit of a shame that he doesn't stay as coordinated with the heroes, but maybe that is to show how, in spite of the heroes being, well, the heroes who, yeah, come out on top in the end, Team Dark is the more militaristic and coordinated of it. I'm pretty sure that they are Team Dark since I know that the story is referred to as Dark Story, but I digress essentially. Yeah, let's talk about Tails next. Fantastic continuation of Tails' arc from Adventure 1, becoming more independent and more willing to lead. While Sonic is the unquestionable leader of Team Hero, Tails arguably does the most strategizing, and is the one who creates the fake emerald that does help win the heroes the day in their side of the plot, essentially. Like, it is definitely my take that canonically speaking, Knuckles was beating Rouge, hence why she is so tired enough to fall without being able to fly. Tails beat Eggman because God, it would be incredibly sad if Eggman was the one who won that fight right after Tails was convinced he got Sonic killed. And yeah, we've already gone over why we pretty much believe that Sonic was the one who beat Shadow, essentially. You know, seeing as how Shadow was literally aiming to kill. But yeah, no, Tails is a good showing in this plot overall. Again, good, independent, and is willing to absolutely beat the ever-loving crap out of Eggman when he believes he killed Sonic. Good stuff. And, well, yeah, let's move to Sonic. Again, what else is there to say? This is essential Sonic, a fun-loving dude who is not about to take a corrupt system arresting him lying down. Yeah, Mario may have taken the Piantas' judgment at face value, but Sonic busts out of containment not once, but twice, and pretty much still goes on to be the hero in spite of the world more or less turning against him. Now, again, as silly as it may seem that he and Shadow are mistaken for one and the same, again, to be fair, not many people know Sonic personally, and what is one thing that heroes do when they turn evil? They do tend to change their looks, especially in comic books, so maybe some people figured that Sonic decided to go for more of a Kabuki style by turning evil. Because, yeah, Shadow's red stripes are actually inspired by Kabuki. Uekawa confirmed, so yeah, it's a thing. But yeah, no, Sonic is, well, he's Sonic. What more can I say? What he pulls off are amazing and daring feats as usual, which managed to impress even Shadow, of all people. Good and great stuff, and I'm actually fine with the fake emerald thing because Tails did mention it has more or less similar properties to that of a real emerald. It's just that you gotta know how to use Chaos Control, or at the very least have the right power and finesse for it, which Sonic has, which, okay, if Shadow's take on Sonic being the ultimate life form is anything to go by, that would explain Shadow's own capabilities, given how, remember, if we're assuming that the mural theory is true, Gerald did in fact fashion Shadow after Sonic. Ironically, probably before Sonic was born, but hey, them's the breaks with prophecies and the ancient mystical Gaia manuscripts and whatever else Eggman is probably digging up for the next game. Oh god, like grandson like grandfather with this stuff. But I digress. Great Sonic, which leaves us with Shadow. Oh me oh my Shadow. Look, David Humphrey may not be my favorite Shadow, that is still Jason Griffith. That said, Kirk Thornton does have the potential to become the best if he gets a game where, you know, he can act better for it, because I wouldn't say he's had the best direction, and I do think he was actually good in Forces. So there's that, and from what we've heard of him in Sonic X Shadow Generations, it's the best he's sounded. That being said, David Humphrey was a very interesting pick, given how, from what I understand, he was kind of a last-minute decision since originally Ryan Drummond was supposed to be the voice of Shadow as Sonic's evil reflection, which, funnily enough, he still did voice Shadow a bit, as you can hear in the final Hazard fight, which, you know, that makes me realize, Tio, if the Biolizard becomes the final Hazard, that makes him a biohazard, doesn't it?
Well, the term is used even in general, Joe, even before Resident Evil was created.
I wonder how high the Biolizard would rank on STARS or, BSSA's list in regards to how threat level. But I digress. No, like, Shadow was done fantastically, and voiced fantastically with David Humphrey and whatnot. Jason Griffith, to me, gets the best range, but David Humphrey was still an amazing start. Let that not be undersaid, essentially. He conveys a good tone of cockiness, but also some vulnerability. Like, you can sense that Shadow is hurting in certain places. You also do get a much sense of levity when Shadow finally discovers the real truth. Well, okay, not the super-duper truth where it turns out he has Black Doom's blood, but, you know, the truth where it turns out what Maria actually asked him was saving the Earth, since I always do get a sense that there's always a hidden piece of doubt in his mind, essentially, hence why he sounds so aggressive and on guard, essentially. Whereas after he finally learns the truth, you hear him sound more triumphant in bits where he beats Biolizard, or during the final fight where he proclaims that he will fulfill Maria's wish, essentially, to great degree overall. I love it. It's great. Shadow had a great arc. I legit get sad every time this scene comes about when he dies, and that being said, I'm glad they let him survive, since, let's be honest, they made it vague enough that he may or may not have survived, essentially. And I do like that his story ultimately got a good continuation. Heck, if I am to give Sonic 06 one thing, it had quite possibly some of the best writing Shadow got up to that point. Which, yeah, is a problem given how they prioritize that more over giving Sonic good stuff, but no, I will hold Shadow in Sonic 06 was fantastic in that regard. But just as such, he is great in this game, and, well, no surprise, he made such a big splash that he arguably helped usher in a new era of Sonic. Like, you know, for a good moment of time, some people would divide the eras of Sonic between post-Shadow or pre-Shadow, because, yeah, if I recall correctly, pretty much after that, Shadow would show up in most other games, save for the Advance and Rush games, but you get the gist, essentially. He was big and in. So those are the characters. I overall like the story. It's rough around the edges in the dialogue. There are some things that definitely could have been done better here and there. Some things that could have been explained more, which, in retrospect, we are getting explained more, partially thanks to Ian Flynn and other supplementary material, including the comics, which are nice, essentially. Like, and I will say this, though. You do get enough explained that I never felt lost in the plot. It's nice that we're getting some clarifications, but what they had overall was fine, I'd say, for the most part. I'm not too bugged by the random Japanese. In fact, ironically, it has made the game somewhat iconic. That being said, knowing the truth behind it, holy cow, I get why the actors were annoyed with that, because Jesus Christ, Naka. Jesus Christ. Can he not go a development without being an asshole?
Challenge level impossible.
The world may never know. But yeah, no, overall, I enjoy the story. I like how high stakes the hero plot is. Like, admittedly, that is one way that the lack of open world does work, in that it does give the game a sense of high stakes where you're going from level to level, especially in the hero mode. I feel like they could have worked in an open world feel, but, you know, for what it is, they worked with it fine. I love how, conversely, also, it's nice that, yeah, if I recall correctly, this was the first time you legit got to play from the villain's perspective, officially. So it's interesting seeing how the villains are something of a more calm track, essentially. Like, some of the levels are literally just the dark characters doing a daily task or whatnot. Like, Sand Ocean is literally just Eggman's morning drive to work. Headquarters is more or less Rouge just waltzing her way into Eggman's fortress. Hell, Lost Colony is Eggman just going through to meet Shadow, essentially. Like, and it's because Team Dark holds the cards in their hands a lot. Which also lends my credence to why I feel like, yes, most of the stuff in Team Dark's story is canon, save for the idea that Shadow beat Sonic because, well, he would have killed him, essentially. And that one cutscene where Eggman radioed Shadow before fighting Sonic, unless he was saying that right before he was about to fight Tails, essentially, which, yeah, that'd be a funny sight. Eggman radioing to Shadow right before the final fight between him and Tails. But no, overall, I feel like it comes together with the two perspectives, and that last story is a fantastic finisher, which, again, for the first time in Sonic canon, had it that the world was in threat of not being taken over, but just outright destroyed, essentially, with an epic space battle finisher, which may or may not have been a throwback to Sonic 3 and Knuckles, which also ended with Doomsday Zone, which, if that is the case, it was a missed opportunity to have the Bio Lizard Final Hazard's fight take 8 hits instead of the 6 that it does, but whatever. Live and Learn is still awesome to do that as well, essentially. Yeah, no, it's got a great finisher overall, which, yeah, good segue, essentially. The music. I can see why this is Jun Sonoi's favorite soundtrack, essentially, in a similar way to why I can see why Adventure 2 is Azuka's favorite game, essentially, since the music is definitely peak Sega and Sonic team, just working together to create all these various tunes and go hand in hand with the characters and whatnot. We've already talked about how each character gets their own motif. That's fine and awesome. As for the gameplay, yeah, I like all the gameplay. Mind you. The treasure hunting stages, they are not better than Adventure 1's without the mods. With the mods is where I would argue that I actually do like the treasure hunting stages better, because when the Emerald Radar works like how it did in Adventure 1, it feels so much cooler to go to these different places and whatnot. But of course, if I'm talking this without mods, yeah, it's no contest. The lack of proper Emerald Radar absolutely hurts them, essentially. Mech hunting stages, though, I loved always. Like, that's the thing. I feel like each gameplay style that is brought back is ramped up a notch, essentially, in one way, shape, or form, essentially. Like, given a lot of high-octane energy or bolstering or whatnot. They feel more involved and, in a way, very story-driven. I love that, too. That being said, like many things, the series would evolve from this style. I would not mind a return to it, but I feel like what we've got going with Frontiers and, I guess to an extent, the re-release of Generations, which is including a control mod for Frontiers' gameplay, is nice. But yeah, no, this is Sonic Adventure 2. It's a treasure of the Sonic series, and one that I'm glad is back to getting overall its dues as an important landmark in Sonic history, essentially. Not everyone loves it, but I can see why the people who do still hold it in high regard. And I feel like it was an essential thing that we do, not just for the Year of Shadow, but yet again, another anniversary for the Blue Blur himself, and Sonic Adventure 2 itself, given the month we're doing this in. Happy birthday, Sonic! Looking forward to your return yet again, Shadow, and have a good night, everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See ya.